All right, we're gonna start laying on our backs and we'll get everything moving, do a bit of strengthening for the hips and the glutes. So take your feet nice and wide apart and round the pelvis under, bringing the knees towards each other. And as you roll down, take the knees apart. And as you do this a couple times, trying to find this kind of circular movement within the hip socket, as well as the articulation through the hip joint, through the spine, the pelvis. So in as you roll up, out as you roll down. One more time like that. You can adjust the feet as you move. And reverse, so knees apart as you roll up, knees together as you roll down. And try to get the back moving a little bit. If you have tighter quads, you might feel like as you bring the knees towards each other, you can almost feel a lateral quad stretch. That's not a bad thing. And twice more, try to really bring the knees all the way together and reach the knees out over the toes. And then on the next one, you're gonna roll up and just bring the knees together. You can allow the feet, the toes and the foot to move on the floor, and then keep the hips up, but take the feet and the toes, the knees out. So the knees and toes come in. You might feel a little bit more in the glute and then out. Kind of changes where you're feeling it in your glutes. So knees are coming together, internally rotating, externally rotating. Try not to just drop your knees in and out. That's different than internal and external rotation. So you're not just moving your knees in and out, you're internally rotating, which means you have to change the hip socket. And then you're externally rotating, which means you have to change the hip socket, which is a very different feeling than just knees in and out. It should feel like it intensifies the glute connection. Yeah, that's right. And two more. And last one. And then connect through the back of the legs and roll back down. Step your feet out away from you. They can still be, legs can still be wide apart. Reach the arms out overhead, big yawn. You can even wiggle around a little bit there as you reach overhead. And then connect the shoulders down and in towards the spine and roll all the way up, coming over the legs. Internally rotate through the arms and then roll all the way back down. Reaching the arms overhead, you can let the shoulders lift up towards the ears as you do that yawn movement, but then connect the shoulders down and in and roll up, reaching out over the legs and rolling back down. And as you continue trying to articulate through the spine, and on your next one, when you roll down, reach the arms out overhead, roll the hips up, bringing the knees in towards each other like we did before. So it's not just the knees falling in, but you're actually internally rotating at the hip. And then you roll the hips back down, sweep the arms around, reach out over the legs as you roll up and roll back down. You can adjust how close the feet are to the back of the pelvis as necessary. And a couple more times. Rolling up, rolling down, adjust the feet so you can roll the hips up off the floor. Use your breath to help move the spine. And this will be the last one, the whole way up, the whole way down, rolling up through the spine. And once you get back down on the floor, stay laying on the floor, bring your legs wide apart and drop your knees to one side, reach and create rotation in opposition to the other. So you're trying to push your hip forward. You're not just laying there, and then drop the knees to the other side. Make sure your feet are wide apart. It'll help you open and rotate, stretch, and rotate the knees, the pelvis, and stretch. On the next one, rotate and then see if you can extend the leg a little bit. It's the one you're looking towards, or the direction you're looking towards that you to be extending. Bend it back in. Rotate the knees to extend the leg a little into a place where you feel stretch. So I'm sure you could find a place to straighten it, but if you're trying to feel a stretch, that's a different story. Yeah. Opening the hip, dropping the knees, rotate and open the hip. And one more time. And then come all the way back to the center. Readjust everything so you're straight. Bring your hands behind your head. Nod your chin, flex your upper body up, keeping your pelvis neutral. Slide your rib towards the opposite hip and come into your obliques, keeping the feet down for a minute and just finding that real clear crisscross of rib to opposite hip, trying to come up and across, up and across. There's a way you can kind of use momentum and almost push down into the bottom arm so much that it kind of twists you and rotates you. Try to see if you can get rid of that momentum and make it more of a pure strength movement. Up and across. And then we're gonna add, come back to the center with your torso, lift one leg to tabletop. Whichever that leg is, you're gonna rotate just towards that leg, center off, rotate towards that leg and center off. And then as you center off, extend the leg out on the diagonal, bend it in as you flex and extend. We're only going to one side, extend and bend it in and extend as you center off. Good. Couple more here, up and across and up and across. And one more time, come back to the center, bring that leg to tabletop, keep it tabletop, straighten the other leg out along the floor. And now see if you can deepen your imprint so much both legs come a little bit towards you, and then you release them back to where they came from. So it's not just you pulling your leg or lifting the bottom leg, it's that you're deepening the abdominal connection to try to lift the whole shape. Keep your head up if you can. And yeah, exactly. So it's easy to just lift the leg, harder to imprint so deeply that the legs come towards you. Imprint so deeply the legs come towards you. Yeah, that's right. And one more time. And then going into single leg stretch, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring both legs back down to the floor. Reach your arms and legs out in opposite directions. Stretch everything open. And bring the legs back in under your pelvis in your line with your sit bones, hands behind your head. And go back into your obliques up and across, staying centered, feet down. Yeah, exactly. Sliding your ribs towards the opposite hip. Good. And as you come across, trying to do less pushing from the bottom arm and more sliding the rib to the opposite hip to draw you up. Nice. On your next one, bring the leg to tabletop and rotate just across to that tabletop leg. Good. Add the leg extending out as you center back off. Up and across towards the bent knee. Extend up and across and extend. And do a couple more like this. Yeah, that's it. Nice. See if you can really feel that clear connection of the rib coming towards the hip and that your leg extends out as you center off. One more time. Come back to the center. Extend the leg that's on the floor. And then deepen your imprint so much, both legs come a little bit towards you. And deepen the abs to curl the pelvis. And scooping, it's like you're imprinted and then you imprint even more. And that changes where the legs are. But the two legs in relationship to each other, that relationship doesn't change. So you're not just lifting the bottom leg, you're curling the pelvis to bring both legs towards you. Good, Gloria. Yeah, that's it. 3 and 2, keep connected through the abs. And last one, come back to the center, go into single leg stretch. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring your legs into your chest, circle your knees around a little bit, and reverse your circling. And come on to the hands and knees, hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips, and just round your lower back up towards the ceiling. Shift your weight back slightly to stretch the low spine open and lengthen back out. Fingers are wide, feeling that connection through the shoulder blades, and do that a couple times, rounding and lengthening, kind of pulling your chest through into a little extension. Press through your shins to help stretch the low spine open. And one more time, rounding and lengthening, and then reaching one foot back behind you, tuck the toes under, and just do a couple pumps back into the back leg. So you're trying to push through the baby toe side of the foot, the middle of the foot, the big toe side of the foot, get a little calf opening. Yeah. And then come back to the center. Keep that sense of pushing the floor away so your shoulder blades stay connected, and square your pelvis to the floor. Then reach out through that back leg, lift your foot up, and then tap your foot down a couple times. We're gonna build on this, so it doesn't have to be the hardest thing ever yet. You're trying to not sink into your lower back as you lift up. So everybody could kind of push the floor away a little more with the upper back and pull up on the low abs a little bit more. Yeah, good. And then set the top of the foot down on the floor with really not very much weight in it, and then shift that whole shape forward and back a few times. So you're not resting into it, you're still trying to keep your pelvis level. And then you're gonna lift the foot off the floor and do that same shifting from the standing hip. So your torso and your leg are trying to be horizontal as you push-pull from that standing hip. Good. Keep pulling up on the low abdominals. And last one. And then whichever arm is the opposite of the leg in the air, that's gonna go down on the forearm. So you're on the forearm, the hand on one side and the leg extended on the same side. And then take your leg as far as you can over to the side, which probably is pretty far. And then go way up and back behind you. And then way over to the side and up and back. Good. As you're going way over to the side, you're trying to not shift too far. Go only as far as you can keep your knees straight and your pelvis from shifting way off center. Of course, that's going to be different for each of us. Your leg gets lower as it goes to the side. It gets higher as it comes back behind you. Lower and lift. Lower and lift. 2 more. Then lift your leg up behind you. Square your hips off to the floor if they aren't already. And try to push the floor away to rotate your pelvis to the side. Square your hips back off to the floor. So you're rotating your pelvis, pushing the floor away. Yeah, that's it. Nice. Good, Genevieve. And rotate, pushing, driving from that bottom leg. Trying to keep the foot pretty much the same height off the floor. And rotate and square it off and rotate and square it off. One more, rotate the pelvis open to the side. Stay there, flex your foot. 2 kicks to the side, 1 sweep back. 2 kicks. You have to get a little lower as your leg goes to the side, but try not to rest on the floor. Yeah, 2 kicks, like side kick. 2 kicks, and press, and 4, 3, 2, and on the last one, you're going to keep your leg back there behind you, straight, looking to the side. Bend your leg that's in the air and try to think of rotating your hips a little bit to the ceiling, like you're trying to look up at the ceiling. Yeah, and then come back to the center. And you can set your hips down and do a shell stretch, or if you want, you can try to go a little bit further and actually turn your body up to the ceiling. Your choice. And then everybody will do a little shell stretch. I think it feels nice, but you have to have, you know, padding under your knees and all that good stuff. Okay, come back to your hands and knees. Reach the second leg out behind you and just push, kind of pumping open the calf, opening different aspects of it so you can kind of favor the big toe or the baby toe side of the foot, kind of shift in and out of those different sides of the foot and the calf, kind of opening up back of the leg. And then find your weight centered between your arms, between the upper and lower body, pushing the floor away, connected through the shoulder, and then just lift and lower and trying to keep it in a range that you can keep neutral. Lower and lift. Natalia, think of a little bit of lifting of the lower back. Yeah, whatever that is, do that. Yes, good. So as your leg goes up, think of a little bit more abdominal connection because your leg really attaches all the way up to the bottom ribs. So as your leg goes up, the back could sink just by virtue of the psoas muscle. So try to feel like you're pulling up on the abs more to lift the leg. Good. And then set the top of the foot down on the floor with hardly any weight on it. Shift forward and back, push, pull, just figuring out how to get that movement coming from the hip joint. Standing hip, lift the foot off the floor and keep going. Shift forward and back, forward and back. That's good. Yeah, nice. Push, pull, feeling. And last one. And then set whichever leg is extended, it's the opposite forearm that's going to go down. You're going to lift the leg up, tap the leg way over to the side, and then lift it up and back behind you. Here, you're trying to keep the pelvis square, so both hip bones are pointed straight down to the ground as much as that's possible. Touch the side and up and back. And you can feel how the standing hip around the outside of the hip, as well as the abdominals, the obliques, have to work quite a bit to keep everything from shifting as the weight of the leg gets further out to the side. Yeah, nice. Keep the hips level. Don't try to move the hips yet. You know what's coming, but try to keep the hips square to the floor. 2 more. And then lift the leg up and back. Rotate the hips open to the side. Square your pelvis back off to the floor. Rotate your hips open to the side. Square it off. And rotate. Good. As you continue trying to drive the movement from that standing hip, really keep activating the back leg, the one that's straight and in the air, because it'll get a little soft. Try to keep pulling up on the kneecap with the quad muscles and opening the back of your knee, like you're trying to stretch the back of your legging open. On the next one, stay rotated, pelvis to the side, and 2 kicks forward, 1 sweep back, 2 kicks. I know, which way is forward? Well, in the direction your knee is facing. And 2 kicks and sweep, and kick, kick, and sweep. Good. 3, 2, and last one. Hold the leg up and back and just bend your knee in a way that you feel a little bit of stretch. If you want to allow the bottom leg to rotate and try to turn up to the ceiling a little bit, you can. Might be able to release an arm. And then you can come back to your shell stretch, shifting back. And then come forward and just take your knees a little bit apart and shift your hips like a kind of smiley face, half circle around towards shell stretch and to the other side and around. And you'll feel how you get a little opening through the outside of the hip. Push, pull around, push, pull around. Last one. And then you can rest. Cool. Lay on your side, scooch towards the front of your mat, and straighten your body out into one long line. Stack your shoulders, your ribs, your hips. This top side is going to want to roll forward just in general, and the hips back. So you have to really consciously think of undoing any of that rotation that wants to happen. Start with just lifting both legs. Reaching out, you should feel some oblique work happening. Yeah, good. And then add your side bend if you like. Thinking of lifting from your waist, not from your arm pushing. So you're kind of dragging the bottom arm to lift up versus just pushing the floor away. Yeah. And if you feel really wobbly, usually to me, that's a sign that your hip is too far back. It's like when you're on the straight on the side and you pull yourself up, it should be, I wouldn't call it a stable position, but a consistent challenge. So less wobbly. Good. And a couple more times. Yeah. Melanie, however you just adjusted your feet is better. So don't worry if your ankles don't touch, just try to connect whatever part of your leg connects and then keep your ankles parallel so that you're not trying to bring the feet together. I think that's throwing you off. And then everybody stay up and little pulse from your obliques, reaching down the side of your leg, pulsing, pulsing, pulsing. 4, 3, 2, and 1, and then lower back down. Bend your knees in front of you for a second. Reach your arms forward and just 3 big circles. As your arm goes overhead, try to let your shoulder lift and side bend, meaning let your ribs follow and go way up and overhead. So you're doing a circle of the arm, and as the arm goes overhead, you slightly are side bending. It just changes how it connects the shoulder and opens the upper back. Reaching as far as you can. Then reverse your circle. And circling around. And last one. And then straighten yourself back out into one long line. You're gonna pull yourself up in that side bend we just did from the obliques on the top side and start to pull your knees in. So you come up and you slightly sit back on the back hip and then slide back out into one long line. It's actually easier if you keep your feet touching the floor. I know it's tempting to lift them off the floor and reach back out. It should feel like the abs are working. If you want it to be harder, you could lift the legs to tabletop right away. But what I don't want is that you're just like swinging your legs to get up, which is a very different thing than using the side bend to get up. If you don't feel obliques, don't lift your feet off the floor. How about that? It should be like you're mostly still on one butt cheek, but there's some weight on the other one. So you're like 3/4, 1/4. Yeah. Nice. And a couple more here, using your obliques to pull you up. And focus on drawing yourself up for sure, but then also elongating back out of that small position. Get big again, get long and tall again. And one more time. And then if you can, either with the feet on or off the floor, pull yourself up into that position. It's basically teaser. Put more of your weight even on both butts. And then see if you can release your hand and reach forward. And then take your hand and touch back to the floor where you came from. Reach forward and touch. It should feel like your abs are holding. It's totally valid to have feet touching the floor. You're in this teaser position, so rounded to the back of the sits bones. And two more. Reach forward, touch, and reach forward and touch, and then slide back out. Awesome. Sit up and let's swing the legs around to the other side. One long line. Stacking your shoulders, your ribs, your hips, and reaching out through the legs and starting with just lifting and lowering the legs. And reaching out and up and reaching out and down. Connecting through the obliques, trying to find this top side of the obliques between the ribs and the pelvis, that connection. Good. Nice, Dana. Awesome. As you do a couple more, if you added the side bend to the other side, let's do it here as well. Side bend up and lengthen down. And side bending, pulling yourself up, getting longer as you lower. Awesome. I feel like this top hand is reaching down the side of the legs to help you create this side bend. And that you're sliding the bottom arm on the floor. Couple more here. And on this last one, hold it up and little pulses. You're trying to pulse your torso and your legs. Might not feel like you move very far, but that's okay. Use your exhale, pulse and pulse and pulse and pulse. And 4, 3, 2, and 1. And bend your knees in front of you. Take 3 of those big overhead circles, stretching yourself into a side bend as your arm goes overhead and around, reaching beyond the bottom arm as you pass it, up and around, big circle. And then reverse the direction. 3 big circles. And 2. And last 1. And then you'll lengthen yourself back out into your long line. Start with your side bend and then tip back as you pull the knees in towards you and reach back out into one long line. Feet can be on or off the floor, pulling yourself up from the obliques, reaching back out long. And trying to make sure you're not just sitting up, because that would be easy and tempting, but kind of easy. Pulling in and sliding out. Awesome. Use your obliques to lift. Couple more here. And on this last one, stay and hold. And then release your hand from the floor. As you go to put your hand back down, you can't leave your shoulders square. You've got to let your chest rotate a little bit. And then come forward. Let your chest rotate a little bit. Yeah, if it's too hard, put your feet on the floor. And rotate. Good. And don't collapse. Yes. And last one. Reach the hand to the floor, slide back out. Awesome. Roll onto your back and center everything back off. Bring your legs in. Let's go into scissors. So imprint and lift the legs up and then extend them. Take your hands to the outside of the knees, nod your chin, flex your upper body up, and 2 pulses, opening the back of the leg. You can reach as far towards the ankle as you can. Try to stay looking through the legs at the wall, at your feet into the room. So you're staying flexed up and keep the abs working even as the legs transition. You want it to be harder to think of your legs passing each other more on a 45-degree angle versus them passing each other like straight up to the ceiling. And do a couple more, but flex your feet, opening the back of the calves a bit further. And 4, 3, 2, and last one. And come back into tabletop, lower your upper body down, set your feet down, and just shake it out for a second. With nothing under your head, we're gonna start with our feet and our pelvis down. Bring your feet all the way together. Step your feet apart, together, and try to actually slightly pound into the floor, meaning it's not like a toe tap, that you're actually putting weight into the floor and the whole surface of the feet down. It should feel kind of nice to get to pound on the floor a little bit. And then come back to the center, hover your pelvis still in neutral, as low off the floor as possible. So it doesn't even look like my butt's off the floor, but it is a little bit. And do the same thing, apart, together, and start to pick up the pace. Step, 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 step. Yeah. See if you can go faster. Go, 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 go. And then come back to the center, set it down. And now whichever leg was leading, which one, mine was right, left, right, left. Now I'm gonna go left, right, left, right. Hover the pelvis if you can, and apart, together. And start to pick up the pace. Should definitely feel some work in the legs. And then you can come back to the center and set your hips back down. And then connect your abdominals and bring your hands behind your head. Flex your upper body up again. And look down at your pelvis. Make sure it's not tipped, that both sides of the pelvis are level. And flex up a little bit further than you think you can. Stay there and just do like a small pulse where you're flattening from hip bone to hip bone. You're not just yanking on your neck. It's coming from a flattening of the low abs and a shortening of the ribs toward the hips. If you want it to be harder, you can bring the legs to tabletop. You could also bring the legs apart and the hands through the legs and pulse by sliding the ribs to the hips and like you're trying to reach beyond your legs. Reach beyond the legs. Yeah, whichever works best for you. 4, 3, 2, and last one. And come back in and hug your legs into your chest. Set the feet down on the floor. Cool. So from here, we're going to cross one ankle over the opposite knee. And then let the knee be open to the side. Then point your knee more towards your face. And then open your knee. And then let it point more towards your face. Okay, that's what we're going to be doing in the air. So you're going to push down through the standing foot. And as you come up, point your knee more to parallel. As you set your pelvis down, turn your leg out more. So your knee turns towards your face more. And then it goes back to the side wherever your side is. Yes. And press up. And you can feel how that pushing changes the relationship of that standing leg with parallel. You're not letting it push the leg way over. You're keeping that standing leg nice and stable. And one more time. And then set your hips down, switch which leg is on top, and hips go up and down. And you're in neutral the whole time. And hips up, hips down, and parallel and turned out. And parallel and turned out. And turned out. And trying to create a little rhythm here. And 2 more, and down and up, and switch legs, start again. Parallel and turned out for 4, and 3, down, and 2, down, last one, stay up. Extend your leg to the ceiling, cross your leg back over. Extend your leg to the ceiling, cross it back over. And 3, don't let the hips drop. And 4, cross it over, set the hips down, switch legs. And 4, parallel, turned out. And parallel, turned out. And 2, down, and stay up on this last one. Extend your leg, bend it, extend, cross over the knee. And 3, and 4, set the hips down, switch your legs. We repeat the beginning. 4, parallel, turned out. And 3, hips down. And 2, stay up on this next one. Extend your leg, cross it over. And extend, cross it over. And extend, cross it over one more time. Hold it there. Flex down, point up. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Cross your leg over, set your hips down, switch sides, and parallel and turn out. And 2, and 3, and 4. Stay up, extend, cross it over, and extend, cross over, and extend. And hold it there, flex down, point up, flex down, point up. 2 more. And last one. Cross your leg over, set your hips down, and set your feet all the way down. Roll over onto your stomach. Swan dive prep, so rotate your legs turned out. Hands in the W position. Start by just reaching forward through the upper body, lifting yourself up. Your legs are connected through the glutes. On your own timing, lengthening back down, connecting through the glutes, reaching out through the top of the head, extending through the spine, lifting yourself long. Push, pull feeling through the arms. So you're not just pressing yourself up. You're using the back muscles to lift you up as well. And if you like, you can take this into a slow rock, meaning you keep the shape of the spine in that extension, and you try to use the glutes to tip the shape forward and then lift the back of the head to bring it back up. So it's like you're trying to extend the hips more to tip the shape forward and bring it up. You only get to tip it as far forward as you can extend the hips. So don't just drop your face to the floor. That's not it. You're trying to lift the back of the legs to lift. Yeah, Natalia, think of keeping the same shape the whole time. And so your legs can lift pretty far, and that's great. But then don't disconnect as you come back up. Lift the back of your head. There. Whatever that was. One more time. And then lower yourself all the way back down. Reach your arms overhead in a narrow V position so your whole body makes an X. Connect through your abdominals. Reach out so long through your limbs and your spine, your torso, that you float everything off the floor. And then opposite arm and leg, whatever speed you can manage, can be quite quick. As it gets really quick, you can start to breathe more like hundreds, like inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you can just do opposite arm and leg and keep it kind of slow. And last moment, don't collapse. Reach the arms and legs out longer. Float, float, float. And then lower all the way down to the ground. Bring your hands under your shoulders and shift yourself back into a little shell stretch where you're pushing with your hands back into the kidney area. Good. And then we're going to come to the side. So I'm going to start on our forearm and push the floor away so you're connected. You can, of course, do this laying all the way on your side if you want, but lifting and lowering in your clam. If you want to hover the feet off a little bit, adds a little bit more challenge. Pushing your knee up and down, trying to connect to the back of the hip, only lifting as far as you have flexibility in the hip joint. So don't feel like you have to get your knee all the way up if it means your hip falls backwards. Good. Pressing up and down and up. And 3, 2, and 1. Hold your knee open. Look at the direction your knee is facing. Look at the direction that top foot is facing. You're gonna bring your thigh towards the direction your knee is facing and then towards your foot. It's gonna be different for all of us because we all have different amounts of turnout, but I'm going towards my knee, I'm going towards my foot, towards my knee, towards my foot. You're trying to not be totally parallel. You're trying to be in your turnout, whatever that is. And 4, 3, 2, and last one. And bring your legs on top of each other and press yourself up onto your hand in line with the knees. Come up in a big side bend. Rotate your chest a little to the floor. Rotate a little to the ceiling. And one more time. Pushing the floor away, big side bend. Rotate. If you'd like, you can circle the arm around behind you and kind of feel if you can open your chest a little bit more. And then set your hips back down. Swing your legs over to the other side. Push down through the forearm. Lift the feet or keep them on the ground and start with that clam motion. Pressing up and down. Good. Nice. If you can, if the feet are on the floor, try not to push your top foot into the bottom foot. It's not wrong. I just think it feels really different if you have to hold the weight of the leg the whole time versus push down into it. If that means you don't feel any back of the hip, then keep doing what you're doing and don't listen to me. Because obviously I want you to feel the back of the hip. But there is a difference between me having to hold my leg the whole time versus resting my top leg on my bottom leg. And last two. And the one, keep the knee turned out. Knee towards the knee, towards the toe. Towards your knee, towards your toe. Kind of coming towards the shoulder or chest, towards the floor behind you. In your range of motion. Try not to let the hip fall back. If you're just sitting back, it's gonna feel really pretty easy. You've gotta stay hip stacked and in your turnout, which will be the rotators of the back of the hip working nicely. Good. One more. And then set your knees down, bring your hand in line with your knees and big side bend up and over. Rotate chest to the ceiling and towards the floor a little bit. Whatever feels good to open. And again, pushing the floor away, open. And then setting it back down, turn to sit. So we're gonna do this more as a hip exercise. So I want you to focus on your glutes. If it doesn't work for you to be on your arms like this, then lay down and do shoulder bridge or hip rolls. So hands pretty far behind you so that you're not underneath your shoulder. Fingers facing out, or they can face forward but not back. And then press the hips open and figure out where you need to be. So when you're up, your shoulders are over your wrists and your knees are over your ankles, and you're as neutral as possible. So try to get your hips all the way up. Yeah, so you're like a table surface. And then fold at the front of the hips and just press your hips back down. And now do that a couple times, but don't come all the way down. Just fold at the hips, use the glutes to press back up. Crease at the hips, glutes press up. Crease at the hips. If you're tighter in the shoulders, you might feel quite a bit of opening through the front of the shoulders, pecs. Nice, good, Gloria. And glutes down. And you have a good view of your legs, so make sure your knees are staying parallel. Down and up. Two more down and up, and this time set your hips all the way down. Take a 2-second break. Press your hips up again, same way, and use one glute to stabilize as you lift the other leg to tabletop. Set that foot back down. Glute and down. Alternating between legs. Try not to just hang down into the hips, that you're still trying to get those hips up towards horizontal. Once you're even on both sides, set the hips back down. Good. Erin, keep looking forward. So this is like one of those other rare places you do a head nod. Okay, press your hips up again. You can continue doing any of the versions you were doing before, or lift the leg up and try to circle your leg around. Circle and circle and reverse. So 4, 3, 2, and 1. Set that leg down, set your hips down, bring the hips up again, press up, lift the leg, circle 4, 3, try not to wobble, 2, and 1, reverse, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and set your foot down, set your hips down, and bring your arms forward. Awesome. So neck pull, we'll start with the prep and then do the full. Your legs can be apart if that's better for tighter hips. Bring your hands to the forehead or the back of the head, but don't push your head forward, and roll part of the way down as far as you can manage. Then when you can't go any further, bring your forehead and hands to your knees and stack up to vertical. And again, rolling down, you can go all the way down if you choose, but you got to get back up. And as you come back up, forehead to knees, stack up from tail to head. Good. Rounding down, opening across the front of the hips, scooping through the abs to come up and over like you're going over a beach ball. And stack up tail to head. 3 more. Rolling down. Using abs to get you back up. One more time. And we're going to finish when we get all the way back up to sitting vertical. Awesome. And then we're going to go into open leg rocker. So you can grab behind the back of the knees, round to the back of the sits bones, and lift the legs up. You need your knees at least as wide as your shoulders. If you want to hold on to the ankles, go for it. But you're trying to not be in a round spine like I am. You're trying to lengthen through the upper back and have the low spine be rounded. Then as you go to roll back, you round the whole spine. And as you come up, you find that suspension by lengthening into the teaser and taking the eyes up on the diagonal. Deep in the abs to roll back. So this should feel harder than rolling like a ball because there's this suspension that has to happen when you get back up. Lengthen. Yeah, nice. 2 more. And once you get back up at the top, set your feet down and take your hands back behind you like a crab walk. Tip your knees to one side, take your arm all the way across. Wherever you want to hold on to the floor, big stretch, rotating your torso open. It should feel kind of clear where you can get a stretch in your body. Sometimes it's when your arm is closer to you. Sometimes it's when it's further. You can straighten the back leg. Try to turn it, look towards that foot. So you're going all the way around yourself, trying to turn and look towards the back foot. Big rotation, and there's a pause maybe, but it looks like a pause, but it's not internally a pause. You're like reaching into your maximum length, and when you can't go any further, you move on. And so that it's continuous, not static. And send your breath into any areas that feel a little compressed or a little tighter. And one more time, finish up even in both directions. And then come all the way over onto your hands and knees. And connect your shoulders and connect the back of the legs to come up into a plank, lifting yourself into a plank, hold, hold, hold. And when you can't hold anymore, or just because it's time, bring your hands and walk them back towards your feet, dropping the back of the pelvis, Let your head hang a little bit. Take a breath or two. And drawing down on the back of the pelvis, pulling up on the front of the pelvis to roll your way up to standing. Once you're standing, just turn your head a little side to side. And then find stillness in good posture. Awesome. Nice work. Thanks for coming.